Hi, good morning, good afternoon. This is the first webinar about TypeScript, about the source code that we share in GitHub page. So, this is the first webinar that we share with you, and we are sharing about the source code of the Decentralized exchange. Um, so you can see the source code in 0x page in the GitHub of the page. If you are a developer, this is will be so familiar for you. If you are not a developer, this is not very good familiar for you. But let's see the source code. This webinar is about the decentralized approach. This decentralized approach have a lot of code, and it's like another source code out there. You can find the Docker file, the Docker compose, package JSON, Firebase JSON. It's very similar for all the source code that you can find out out there. And the difference between the centralized and decentralized exchange is that in the centralized you have a central authority. What this means? The central authority it's that the 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 base control all the private keys. And what is the private keys? The private keys are the the approach for the blockchain to keep the phones, and the phones are money in all the ways. So that's the big difference between centralized and decentralized. The circle that we are sharing with you, it's the decentralized approach. This decentralized approach is very different for another approach. So let me see. And okay, this source code have assets that it's all the icons that have the page, and it's worth like another page out there in the web. This approach it's in S point SVG. It's point SVG. It's like another SVG. There out there's a lot of SVG component to exchange the SVG for a PNG or another format of your image. So the source code in assets and icon it's in SVG. Then we have a charting library. The charting library it's for the trading view. The trading view it's a front end solution that have charts in crypto and stock market. This stock market have a charting library that have a static and bundles and images. These bundles and images are source code, and this is it's all about the connection between the data feed of your IP and the valoration or the approach of you have in your web. The data fee, it's a UDF, and these UDF have different libraries and source code. The library, it's all about JavaScript, and this JavaScript have a very good code. This code it's writing, of course, in JavaScript, and all the strings arise, and all the stuff in it's writing in JavaScript, and this JavaScript is connected to the other source code. Okay, so in summary, we see first asset that is writing in SVG. The second, we see the charting library. This charting library is source code, open source code, and it's writing in the TradingView platform. If you don't know the TradingView, it's very famous, and it's the best library out there that you can get. Uh, you also have components. Uh, these components have different approach. You can see the account common RC20, RC. This approach, the RC20 and the RC 1722, it's all about the difference in the protocol specification. The RC20 it's very different. The RC20 100, the RC 720. The difference is that RC20 is for assets, crypto assets, and the other one it's about the collections that have in different approach. In the course that we have in the page Academy Point Blockchain Mexico.net point net, we have a very good information about this two kind of approach. Um, then we have notification approach. This notification works like another notification that you can find out in the web. This notification item we have like uh, another code out there. You can find the imports from the library that you can get this data, and it's work like another code. If you don't build developer, maybe this cannot be so familiar for you, but if you are developer, this is very familiar for you. And all the code is about for having these notifications for all the services that have the decentralized exchange. This decentralized exchange it's 0x. 0x is a project that it's hosting in San Francisco, United States. And we think this approach that they make um, in some fashion have a very good approach for the decentralized way. Um, so okay, this is the in summary. In this component, we have the account, the common, the difference between the two approaches that we see, the notification, the config is the next. This is the principal source code that you can see in GitHub and in any kind of source code that you can find out there. And the components um, of this circle. It's it's very simple in some ways because the biggest difference between this is the ERC22 and the ERC 73 70 20 21. And let's see this circle. Um, the prompts that are very famous in React. We use React Node and React because we think React have very good approach for the front end solution, and it's a library that continues have developed in so many ways. And this approach have different statements. These statements it's very natural for the algorithm that we can search. And you can see all this circled in the page that we share right now. So you have any question, we can answer. So you have any question? Okay, the circle is in first comment. You can see all the circle that we have right now. And this is circle, open circle. It's all about the decentralized exchange that we are sharing with you. So in summary, we see first the asset icons. That the first approach is in point SVG. Then we see the charting library that it's open source code, um, that is provide for trading view. The common is the next one. You can see all these open source codes in the first comment. It's a 0x project launch kit. And the first is the config ts of TypeScript. Um, we see all this data that we are share with you. And it's all about the export class config that have the private static instance for the config. You start to thinking in this code very good because it's the first the first step for you way for you try to connect the decentralized exchange in the way that you want. Uh, in this mean, this get config, it's all about have the validator and the config file. Then we have the config schema. This config schema, that another config schema that you can find out in the web. You have the ID, and you have in the sense of the code, you have the properties, the token, the race, the items, and the token metadata schema. This pairs, it's the pairs for the exchange that you have in the marketplace. These pairs, you have the first, the type right, the items, the reference, that it's a pair schema, and all in this folder it's connect, and you have this approach for the meaning of the way, or the way that you want to share in the decentralized exchange. And we can see more data here that have meaning for this code. Um, Very good approach is here, and that you have the ID, the social schema, the properties. Facebook, the Facebook is a string, the Reddit is a string, and you connect your social media. Um, let's see more thing interesting. The thing here is work like another uh, page or another data that you have to import the string or the array of the library that you want from the source. And this source is the Xerox Asset Swapper. You can see this source code in the first comment in this webinar, this shitty webinar. And yes, this approach is very interesting because you start to explore all the cons for connect all the points that you want to share in the decentralized way. For example, the interesting one is the MetaMask extension. MetaMask extension, it's in a wallet that you connect in the Ethereum ecosystem, and this Ethereum ecosystem send all the things that you want across the internet, and it's very good. If you don't know what means MetaMask, you can follow this link. MetaMask. That okay. Um, yes, in this page you can find all the data that connect for the decentralized way. So let's move. The next one is markets. Uh, Markets is so interesting because you always have in a market a currency pair. This currency pair always have the seller and the buyer. That in another terminology, in another glossary, you can call this like maker, the 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 the, the person that buy, and the seller, taker. So it's interesting the filters that in this data we use, the supply market filters, to get available markets, the currency pair. Um, it's interesting check this data. Um, it's a data that you can find a lot of books. The terminology of book in the centralized web, it's complicated because we remember the book of the DAO, a book that actually the terminology for this book is called in the reentrancy book, and this reentrancy book have the ability for reentrance to the smart contract. This reentrance for the smart contract, it's if you are not the owner for this smart contract, you can re-entrance for this smart contract. And and what's an issue for the ecosystem of Ethereum because we have a lot of no make sense. I mean, if you are the owner for your smart contract and you can re-entrance it for your smart contract, it's a way that you can do it. I mean, and what's a very problematic issue in the ecosystem. And then the developers for the Ethereum community find the patch for this book, and the patch for this book was something that is called in the reentrancy guardian. The reentrancy guardian works in the underhood like a proxy. This proxy works like a firewall. You put the data in front the the vector of of the attacker that wants to rent receive for this smart contract, and this firewall put all the wall and and nobody that wants to attack this smart contract can rent receive for this smart contract. I know it's a little tricky, a lot of tricky, but let's move it in this data that we share. Then we have the tokens metadata that works like interface. This interface have the metadata for the token that you want to buy or sell in this uh, smart contract approach. And it's all about the strings. You need to type the Facebook and then the string. You need to type the Reddit URL, and it's a string, and it's all about the strings. It's a boogie code. I mean, it's not so complicated. It's only you need to put the thing that you want. Where do you want? It's all about that. Then we have the token metadata, and it's an interface. Also it's an interface. You have the thing that you want and put that you need, and it's all about the common stuff. Then we have the components. These components, it's how the decentralized exchange works. And the components are very cheesy. Cheesy in the mean that you can find a lot of books in this data that you type in. The typing in this area are very specific because you are doing things very specific. For example, in the first line, we can find the file model. The file model is the connection between the decentralized exchange with the fiat. The fiat it's the money that you use in debit card or a credit card. So it needs to be very specific. The security for this exchange for your fiat model and the decentralized exchange, it's in three ways. The Apple Pay, that the fiat link it's paid somewhere it's a front end solution for this kind of service. The other one is the case of debit card, that is also for somewhere. The third one is the credit card, and it's for MoonPay. It's another front end solution about for the fiat model. Remember that the fiat model is connect the debit and credit cards for buy and specific cryptocurrency. So it's a logic that you can find when you are trying to type in this code. Um, and so it's all about statements. That is a tricky part. Mm, Set up the fiat model that you want to share, um, and then export all like like you want. Then we have another interesting approach is the fiat on chain model that make liveness for the other code that we see. And works like an interface. This interface is made in React, and React is all about prompts. You have your team, connect for another team, that is on another interface. So it's all about connect the data that you have with another data. We have the cons, and you put all the data that you want, white, the overflow, the makes ways, the flex direction, the display, all the all the things that you need to know in the library that you want to put in your data. And then we have a features model that you can type with features model, React, prompts, the cons, use dispatch, use selector. I don't know. Um, you can retrieve in this code and wonder very different uh, ways that you want to get to connect the data. So we see the components, the common, and maybe in the next webinar we can see more stuff. So see you in the next webinar.